So I've never been accused of being a hockey fan, but I have been accused of being a goody two shoes. So let me tell you how those two things relate. Back in my early 20s, I was living in Boston, Massachusetts, and a friend of mine had 2 tickets for the Boston Bruins game, and he could not attend. So he said, "You want the tickets?" I'm like, "Yeah, definitely." So I invited my mom, of course. We'd never been to a game, but the two of us met at Park Street Station, which is the main hub in the Boston subway system. It's a great old system. It's got like commuter kind of cars, but also have these little trolley type cars that are connected together. So we met at Park Street Station, and so did a lot of other people who were all getting onto the Green Line to go to the North Station, where we would all get off to go to Boston Garden, right, to see this Bruins game. So we all push through those turnstiles and we get to our seats. And these seats are amazing. They're about 12 rows up from the ice. I mean, right at center court or field or ice or whatever you call the middle of the ice rink. Anyways, before you know it, we're all like shouting and screaming. We've never been to a hockey game, but we're right along with everybody else, my mom and I. We're yelling and screaming. We're razzing the ref. We are encouraging the players to take off their gloves and get into a fight on the plexiglass. And these fights, right? After every fight, at least one player, if not several players, ends up in the penalty box, right? Where they're going to sit and contemplate their bad behavior for a while until they're allowed back on the ice. Anyways, the beers were cold, the dogs were hot, the game was fun. And truthfully, I don't even remember who the Bruins were playing that night, and I don't even remember if we won or not. But I think from the way the crowd was reacting, what I remember leaving the arena and heading back to the trolley that night was that we must have won, because everybody was very excited, very worked up, very rowdy, and having a great time. We get back on the Green Line, the trolley, to go back to Park Street Station, where everyone would catch their train or their trolley and go home. And my mom and I were lucky enough to find a seat. It was pretty crowded. We found a seat. Now we're discussing our newfound knowledge of power plays. When I look up and in front of me, about 15 feet away on the trolley, there's this kid. He's with a bunch of kids. And he just kind of winds up his arm and he throws a punch at one of the windows of the trolley. Now, and the glass shatters everywhere. Now it's safety glass, so nobody got hurt, no blood and gore, but the whole train was like stunned by this action. And the kid's like, kind of like nervous laughter. And his friends are like, "Well, that was wicked weird." And we're like, "Yeah, that was wicked weird." But anyways, in a few moments, everyone kind of goes back to their conversations, whether it was about the game or what the game next week was or the playoffs, whatever. But soon we're getting ready to start pulling into Park Street Station. And the station is very brightly lit. And on the platform where we get off is this row of cops. Now, I don't know if the trolley driver had radioed in for help or if this was just typical things they do after a hockey game in Boston, have cops ready and available. But anyways, the trolley stops, the door slowly opens, and before any of us can make a move, this cop steps up into the trolley. He looks around at all of us. He says, "Good evening, folks. Just need to know who broke the window." Dead silence. He looks around again. He says, "I'll make this easy on you. No one's getting off the trolley until you tell me who broke the window." Dead silence. Now, I've always been the kind of person who works on a gut instinct. I don't often go, "Now, if I did this, what might be the worst case scenario of that? Or if I did this, what might happen then?" So it was late. I was tired. I had to work the next day. I really had to pee because of those beers I'd had back in the garden earlier. So I stood up and said, "I know who did it." And as I'm pointing out the kid by the window, the whole train just exhales. And I point my finger at the kid. The cop takes the kid by the arm, starts walking him towards the door, and he looks back over his shoulder at me and says, "Come on." So the worst case scenario in this particular situation that night, it wasn't all the awful stares I got as I was getting off the train like I was a traitor or something, right? And it wasn't the fact that I was delayed even further because I had to talk to the cops. And it wasn't even the 2 weeks later when I had to go to court as a witness. That wasn't it either. Now, the worst case scenario that night was the fact that deep in my goody two-shoes heart, I know the only reason I stood up was because I wanted to go home, not because it was the right thing to do. And to question myself ever since, and would I have the balls to do the right thing the next time? So I'm still not a hockey fan, not a big one anyway, but I think there's something to that penalty box.